Hello, everyone. I am inviting Nicholas Garza today to talk to us about teaching countertenors. All right, inviting Nicholas today to talk about teaching countertenors. I'm excited to talk to Nicholas, and here he is. All right, how's it
How are you?
going?
I was
Good.
cut each other off. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I know. I'm trying earphones for the first time. We'll see if earbuds. We'll see if this works. I don't know if it's going to make it
Cool.
any
You know
better.
what? I'll name just a second.
I don't know.
Doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah. All right. I see some people joining us. Woohoo! Welcome, everybody. I know that there are some countertenors listening today. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited to talk. Oops. Let's see here. I think Nicholas is hopefully going to join us again. It looks like he is having some connection issues. There we go. There he is.
Yes. Cool.
Great.
Awesome. Let me just plug in these thingies. Oh my God, they're super tangled. Of course, this would happen. Just a second.
Welcome, countertenors. Welcome, countertenors.
Yes.
Nicholas is getting set up here, and we're going to talk about all things countertenor today. Woohoo!
Super fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm excited
Yeah.
about
Thanks.
this.
Thanks for having me too. I'm really excited for this. Also, kind of
Yeah.
nervous, but
Oh,
not
don't
really.
worry
It's
about it.
just
It's
it'll be fun.
Instagram. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
not academic. It's Instagram. Everyone loves countertenors, so it's fine.
Oh, that's good to know. I don't know.
Um,
Sometimes I come across some mezzos that are pretty bitter about countertenors.
That's
Just
true.
saying.
That's true. That's true. Now that I'm a mezzo, I guess I should have some like I guess we do have some beef. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
All right. So first of all, Nicholas and I know each other from singing in the choral pickup in Johns Creek near Atlanta. We met singing in a pro choir together, and yeah, had a great time. There was something involving a store run and picking up a piñata, I think, at
The
one
rainbow
point.
pinata. It's
Yeah.
still probably in the trunk of your car.
It probably still is, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, so the way I like to open these is just with some icebreaker questions that I've asked people for. So this is just to get the conversation started. My favorite one was if you could own any animal legally, what would it be?
Legally, that opens it up to lots of animals, doesn't it?
Are you going to be a Tiger King or what?
Oh, I don't know. That got Joe Exotic in pretty deep trouble, so I don't think I want to do the tiger thing. But I would have to say, oh gosh, you really have me thinking about all these different animals, and I just don't know.
It's a hard question, honestly.
It really is. You know what? I'm gonna say a coyote because lots
Mm,
of people post about that as like a joke that like, oh look, I took home a dog, and then I think they could probably be pretty cute, right? Maybe. I
yeah,
don't know.
totally. It's close
Yeah,
enough to a dog. Yeah.
close enough. Hmm.
We were just driving through New Mexico this past weekend, and we actually saw a coyote, and it was very New Mexico-y. We were like, of course, we saw a coyote just chilling on the side of the road.
Yes.
Anyways,
Hmm.
okay, so the first thing I want to ask you is just how you got started on your singing journey and then also on your teaching journey and kind of what you do now as far as teaching and singing. And I'm also interested, those of you, I know that a lot of you that are joining us are countertenors, but for those of us that are not countertenors, I also would just kind of like to know how you discovered that you were this voice type because not a lot of people start out thinking that this is the route they're going to go.
Absolutely. So, the normal cliche answer, I've always been singing since I was a kid. It's true, I grew
Hmm.
up, parents would send you to vacation Bible school, you'd learn all the songs on the same day, and everyone else was struggling, and you're like, well, I just get it. I don't know. I loved singing always. There was always, a camera on me via my dad, just sing this, and I just do it. I've always sung.
Hmm.
And then into high school, in middle school, doing the whole choir route and doing all that stuff. Went to UT Arlington, studied there with Jingling Tam and David Grogan. And when I realized that I could do, or was doing the countertenor route. It was always my happy place. And I was always told no. I was always, kind of, no, you're a tenor. And yes, I can sing tenor. I really can. But I was always happiest singing countertenor. I was always happiest, fixing the altos in high school when they were like, they're getting that note wrong. That was my
Okay.
happy place. It was just always something that I wanted to do. I always wanted to sing countertenor. And finally, into college, it was like, oh, like this really is a thing he can do. And I'm like, yes, I promise. And so, it came to fruition in starting working as a countertenor in my early 20s. I know I'm 28 right now, but
Mm-hmm.
just at like 2019, I really started getting the ball rolling with the countertenor route. Mm-hmm.
Great, great. And that's kind of a strange transition, right? From tenor to countertenor. From what I've heard, most people start as a baritone or something, and then they switch to countertenor.
Every single person, when they start talking to me about it, they're like, well, so you were in a baritone? And I'm like, no, I was not. And there are several people that I know that are countertenors now that were tenor
Mm-hmm.
first, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a little bit different teaching wise, which I guess we'll get to in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are the majority that I know are the baritone countertenor thing, but then there's plenty of tenor countertenors.
Gotcha. So,
Mm-hmm.
just another question I have is, how did you know that this was a voice type? Was this something that you knew about early on?
It was the good old YouTube and like the early
Mm-hmm.
days with like the internet stuff and looking at different YouTube videos, going down that rabbit hole and seeing guys singing girl parts. And it was like, oh, but I love that. And I do that
Mm-hmm.
all the time in choir. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
doing that. So it was one of those very simple, I like that and it's a real thing. I want to try it. And
Yeah, that's funny.
mhm,
One of my good friends from grad school is also a countertenor, and he
mhm.
said that he always just felt like the lost Beach Boy, and that's how he knew.
Exactly. I mean,
So,
you just kind of like, where do I fit in?
yeah, yeah, that's really
Mhm.
interesting because I mean, I went to a small liberal arts school
Mhm.
in Tennessee for my undergrad, Lee University, and I don't think I saw a countertenor until I went to Nats one year, and I
Mhm.
was like, wait, what's happening right now? Like, I didn't know it existed until undergrad, really, until I started studying. So I mean, I was just wondering how you kind of came across that Fach in the first place.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was simply just YouTube. But there's
Uh-huh.
so many people that don't. I mean, at one time we were in college, we were doing a concert in the Meyerson, and this one lady, she was very, very genuine and very nice about it. But she comes up to me and goes, "Darling, were you up there singing them lady parts?" And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Yeah, I mean, yes, it's my voice type." And she goes, "Oh, that was so interesting." I said, "Well, bless your heart. Thank you so much." And
Because you were in Texas, yeah, so you could
yes,
say that.
we're in
Uh-huh.
Dallas and you could just
Uh-huh.
say that. She's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And it was a very,
I love
it
that.
was one of those moments. So I was like, "Yes, I am singing the lady parts. Yes, ma'am."
Yes, that is me.
Mhm.
That is me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. One more story. We sang Midsummer Night's Dream in undergrad, and one of my friends again was the countertenor, I guess Oberon in that,
Mhm.
and it took my parents like afterwards. They just like they could not figure out that that was a guy singing that part, and I was like, no, 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 that was my friend Colin, and they were like, no, 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 I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the girl, and I was like, no, 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 that's my friend Colin. He sang that part, and they just like could not wrap their heads around it. It's just
No.
funny seeing people encounter that for the first time. Yeah.
Yes. It's truly special, truly
Yeah,
special.
yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about teaching because that's what we're here to do
Mhm.
today. All right. So, what is the same about teaching students in your own voice type, countertenors, and all other voice types?
Well, I think the same thing is we do gather technique and tricks and all that stuff from the different types of things because countertenor is so versatile in the sense that sometimes you're able to go down into your male voice or your tenor voice or your baritone voice. And then you also need to learn how to sing. I mean, this is my way of explaining it. It might not be the correct way, but sometimes you do have to teach your countertenors as mezzos, teaching them that technique of singing on the voice, not being precious in any way, just singing. And that really becomes effective in balancing out their break. And so it seems seamless instead of a true break, down in E, D, F, where they're like, I'm going to stay in this little hootie thing. And I'm like, it's not cute. We got to
That's
fix it.
like, that's not cute. That's not cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it is. I imagine I actually have never taught a countertenor before. So this is, again, this is new information to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy to talk to you. But I imagine that it would be very similar to teaching female voices, traditionally female voices
Mm-hmm.
in mezzo sopranos, especially because it's a very similar range, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
from mezzo sopranos. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I
Hmm.
had a student, I mean, the main thing that I always stress to my students, regardless of
Hmm.
their voice type, is ask questions. If something doesn't feel right, or if
Right.
something feels strange, but you kind of like it, ask why.
Hmm.
And even if I don't necessarily know why, we can probably get there together, because it is, especially with countertenors, so important to ask those questions. You can't just say, well, it sounds a little airy down there, but it's whatever. Like, no, ask, like, how do I get it to be the same? And forcing them to ask those important questions. I have a log for my students that they have to provide 3 questions for me from their practice period, from the time that they had their lesson to the next lesson, so that we can talk about those questions and see if we can help them grasp a concept a little better that they're probably struggling with, or, just helping them in general to know their own voice, know what's happening.
Yeah, I love that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is really important. And I also like that you said if you don't know, you'll figure it out together, because
Yes, I don't know
there's
everything.
right,
Mm-mm.
right. There's so much to figure out. And I'm the same way. If a student asks me something and I don't know, I say, great, I don't know. I'll research that, I promise, and come back and we'll
Yeah.
we'll talk about it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's great. And by the way, those of you that are joining us, hello, welcome. If you guys have any questions for Nicholas about teaching countertenors or really anything, feel free to ask as we're going along and talking today. Okay, so we just talked about what are the similarities between teaching all voice types and countertenors. Let's now talk about the differences. So what are differences in teaching countertenors versus other voice types that you notice?
With all of what I just said, you also have to understand how fragile sometimes an early countertenor voice can be. Some people are born with vocal folds of steel, and I'm like, how do you do that? And then some
Yep.
people, it's a little bit more fragile, and as they're learning to build their technique, it can be a little tired. It can be something that's just strange, and different things don't work as much, and you just have to be so graceful with the fact that it's brand new to this person. Regardless of whether they can do it or not, it is new, and you have to be so, so gentle with not harming them because they can't get it quite yet. It takes a
Mm,
lot of time to just have it click. Just really making sure that you're navigating your break. I talk a lot about the break because honestly, they can sing high, they can sing in their male range, they can sing low, but it's truly navigating that dreaded break that you want to sound seeming you just want to sound like, oh, it's the same voice, and
absolutely.
it's really difficult. So patience is so much more in need when you're teaching a countertenor than anything else,
Mm,
because sometimes it just will be difficult.
mm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
have one student currently that was a baritone for um, these last 2 years, and during the Texas All-State Choir process, I asked him, sing. He was having trouble coming in on his part, and I said, sing the alto line
Mm-hmm.
before, and then come in with that helping you. And he sang this alto line so beautifully, and I said, stop, like, what was that? And he goes, well, I always kind of like singing up there. And I'm like, oh, great. And for lack of a better term, we have to diagnose it early. We have to be able to be open to the fact that they can sing this and continue to work on that as a technique and as their own voice. We don't have to put our students in a baritone, bass, tenor role. We have to be able to be more comfortable with the fact that some of them just are altos, some of them are countertenors,
Absolutely.
and
So when,
sopranos.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
mm-hmm,
right, right.
mm-hmm,
So I guess my question is with that, in your experience, have you had students, so you had this student
Hmm.
that was a baritone and then changed. If you have a student that you suspect could sing countertenor, do you maybe I don't know the exact way to ask this. Is it more important that they be that they just want to sing countertenor, or is it something that you hear and you're like, you should sing countertenor, or you know what I mean? I don't know. That's a
Yeah,
really weird way to ask that.
no, I totally get what you're saying. Sometimes you have to just throw them a ball and say, "What do you think about this?"
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, they've already experimented with that range because you know they hear it on the radio all the time. Like you were saying in the post advertising this session,
Mm-hmm.
that there's Sam Smith, there's Justin Timberlake, there's guys that are range all the time, and so they do it already, and then when it's easier or when they think it's something more natural, then you start exploring it. And
Mm.
when you do have someone who you're like, have you thought about this, you have to ask those questions and just say, hey, like, sing this for me. And it's okay if they don't. You're like, maybe not yet, but maybe in a
Mm-hmm.
little while. You never really
Mm-hmm.
force it, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely I would say it is important for them to feel comfortable with it. um,
Right.
because then I feel they can harm themselves if they want to push it to be something that it's not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In any voice type. I
Hmm.
think that's exactly right. Yeah. Good. Okay, let's go to another icebreaker question here.
Hmm.
Which one? Which one? Which one? Okay, this one could be difficult to answer. If you don't have an answer, that's okay. We can move on. But I am interested to know as well, what is one of the most embarrassing things that's happened to you on stage?
Oh, well, that happened. That happened 2, 3. I don't know. Time's a blur, but either 2 or 3 years ago, I was in a production, and everything was going well, and I legitimately just blanked. I just
It
forgot.
happens to all of us.
And a wonderful soprano countertenor, Kimura, who is very up and coming. Oh, he is wonderful. If you have not heard of him, please look him up. He's kind of Facebook, YouTube famous with his brother, and with his master class with Joyce Didonato. But he was in the same production, and he just saw the fear in my. I turned around and was like,
Oh gosh.
I didn't want the audience to know. I was just kind of pretending to be really mad and waiting for my next line, but he caught it, and he just saved my life, and I am
Oh,
forever indebted to him.
oh, we love good colleagues.
Oh,
We love good
so
colleagues.
much. I was just like, I don't remember. Please help.
Please help me.
Yeah, and it was
Been
like
there.
this was like the second run of it. Like, it wasn't like I forgotten the first or the dress rehearsal. Like it hadn't happened
Mm-hmm.
before, and it just happened.
Yep.
Just one of those things. Mhm.
Oh, the joys of live performance. Don't we miss it?
Yes, I miss it.
I
Yes.
know. You just never know what's going to happen or
Hmm.
what your brain's going to do.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, so what kind of vocal challenges do you see most often in students of your own voice type, so in countertenors? And this could kind of go back to some of the things we were already talking about.
Yeah, a lot of it is trying to push something, like definitely pushing their I don't like to say falsetto because sometimes it just isn't, and I don't know how else to explain that it isn't, just that it isn't really your falsetto, it's your voice. But then there's this sort of, you have to transition, and they want to take it all the way down, and it just kind of starts sounding like a hair dryer, and you know, you know, and you're just like, well, you tried. But now, why do you think that doesn't sound the same as when you're up high? And then you
Hmm.
continue to talk about that. It really is for countertenors that break. And also another challenge is sometimes when people hear countertenor, they automatically think early music. But I mean, there is so much rep now for the modern day countertenor,
Yes,
and we have to, if there's one advice I could give to any type of countertenor, is to be as versatile as possible. You will not make a living in today's world of lots of talented people if you are not willing to be versatile. Sing in that choir, sing in that early music ensemble, sing in that major opera, sing on musical theater, whatever. But you have to be versatile and know your limits, but know your voice and its capabilities.
absolutely. That's a great
Hmm.
lesson for all singers in this
Yes.
world. I mean, have your
Mm-hmm.
niche, have your thing that you're good at, but
Yeah.
I mean, also, I think it's so important to be able to do all kinds of different things and also to explore different things because you just don't know what you like and what you're good at unless you try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Good. All right. And then let's see here. My last question of the day is what are three of your favorite vocal
I don't know
exercises
what you're saying.
specifically? Oh gosh. Hello, hello.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're back.
Are we
I was
back?
like,
Okay, great.
I don't know your last question.
Okay, here's the last question. What are three of your favorite vocal exercises for countertenors?
Ooh, okay. So I call it the Tarzan thing when you go from your like and really creating that true crack,
Mm-hmm.
true just
Mm-hmm.
work through it, really making sure that you continue to smooth out that transitional area of your voice, whether it's from G down to low C, something. You just have to really be able to navigate through that healthily and learning where to break things and change to different things. And that's a good exercise. And having one interval where you have to go from the bottom of the staff to up and knowing, oh, how am I going to navigate that? And really going, and really
Mm.
knowing that break. It really has helped me. It's helped some of my students too. And it's kind of silly. And I love making people uncomfortable with that stuff.
I think it's
you know?
important. It's important to play in lessons,
Yes.
right? And
Hmm.
not be
Oh, yeah.
too
Oh, my
precious, as you
gosh.
said, about everything. Yeah,
Never be
yeah.
precious. You will not get anywhere in life if you just continue to be precious.
Right,
Because,
right,
just
right.
it's just not going to work. And,
Yeah, that's super interesting though, because I would think
hmm
that I guess it is important to be able to navigate, your break or whatever you want to call it
hmm
well. But it's interesting because I was expecting, and maybe you'll talk about this later, but expecting like kind of bringing that down or
hmm
up. But I think one really important thing too is just to not be scared of it, right? Because I think a lot of
Exactly.
people
Hmm
when they especially well, no, all voice types. We all have, breaks. There are those
hmm
coloratura sopranos that they're like, what's a break? And I'm like, okay. But
Same. I'm like, oh, you don't have a break.
yeah, exactly. But I think that is important just to
hmm
embrace the crack, embrace the break. It's there, and
Yes.
and then just learn to navigate through that. So I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
and
interesting.
the second one was going to be that once you start, and these are kind of you can do them in order. Doing that and then taking it to where it is up top and working through that break,
Mm,
and then smoothing it out that way, doing it a
top
different
down.
way. And then
Hmm.
I love the
Oh,
straw thing.
yes,
It's just
absolutely.
so healthy, and I also use it with water bottles. Well, and or just cups of water. If you
Hmm.
want to save the turtles, that's great. Do it.
Yes.
Always, think of whatever you want to use,
Sustainability.
but
Yeah.
it's just a little bit of water, not a full cup of water, and sticking the straw not completely all the way down on the bottom of the cup or the bottle, but just in the water, and using that as your straw exercise, creating those bubbles. It really helps them to remain consistent with their space in the back, and keeping things supported healthily.
Hmm.
Whether or not they're making a strident sound or an open sound, they just need to keep that space there.
Absolutely.
Hmm
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. I love SOBT exercises. We all love those.
hmm
But that, yeah, the straw and water thing is wonderful. And when I was singing a lot of choral music, actually,
hmm
that's something I used a lot because it's really easy to come off of your voice because you're trying to be really quiet or you're trying to be straight tone, and then you just don't use that flow phonation. You don't use that breath. So singing
hmm
your repertoire with that straw technique in the water, oh my gosh, it's so great. And getting making sure the bubble rate is
It's
consistent.
consistent,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Oh, and
uh-huh.
like I said, that whole word with precious, sometimes they're like, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want like this place. Your lesson is the place to make the mistakes, the place to
Hmm.
laugh at yourself, the place to grow in that way. You have permission to mess up. You have permission to just be awful sometimes. You
Absolutely.
really do, and
Yeah.
it's important to teach your students that too.
Yeah.
Also, to teach them to drink plenty of water. I drink a gallon of water a day. I like really do.
Yeah.
And no matter where you live in the United States, whether it's high elevation or low or very humid,
Hmm.
very dry, it's just important to know vocal health and know your limits. You know, if you're a full-time singer and you're having this full schedule in a normal life, know, well, I shouldn't really be, having that drink after rehearsal with people.
Mm-hmm.
Know
Mm-hmm.
what your voice can handle and what it cannot.
That's
Hmm.
absolutely true. And that does, I think that takes a while to learn. And you'll probably mess up while you're doing it. You'll probably
Yes.
do some
Oh,
things and you're like, should not have
self
done that.
included. And you're like, oh, darn.
Totally been there.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it is really important to be intuitive, but also like I also think that sometimes it's a balance, right? Because then some people can get really in their head about it and they're like, well, I have to do this and this and this on performance day, and then I can't do this and I can't do this and I have to eat this way all the time. So I think
Hmm.
there's definitely
There's a
definitely a
fine
balance
line.
there. Be a
Hmm. Yes.
person, be a
Yes.
person, but also be smart.
And also be
Yeah.
vulnerable enough to share, like, hey, it's not my best day today. I mean, a conductor will really appreciate that when you're just like, hey, I'm marking today and I'm not BSing you. I'm just really just tired. And you can
Mm,
either have me at my best on the day of or right now, because there's lots of conductors that just are like, sing. And you're like, not right now.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Stand up for yourself, know your body, know
Hmm.
your voice, and be a promote yourself, right? That's not the right word.
Absolutely.
Stand up for yourself.
Advocate for
Advocate. That's
yourself.
what I was looking for.
Hmm.
Advocate for yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for talking to me today. This is super interesting. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, likewise. I loved it. Let's talk together soon again. Maybe
Yeah.
find that piñata. Let's get together and hit that piñata like in the park or something.
That would be the perfect 2020, hope 2021 at this point remedy.
Yes. We'll meet in like
Yeah.
Santa Fe or something midway from
Perfect.
Dallas to
Hmm.
Colorado, and
Just hit that
we'll just
pinata.
do it. Yes, let's do it.
I love that.
Yes.
All right, Nicholas. Well, good. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. Thank you for those of you that joined us. I hope it was helpful for you. And we will post a replay of this interview on my site and on YouTube. So thank you so much. And all you countertenors out there, I'm sure Nicholas would love to talk to you if you have any additional
Yes.
questions.
Hmm.
So reach out to him if you would like. And yeah, we'll catch you all on the virtual social media world later on.
All righty. Well, it was
All
nice to
right.
see you. We'll talk
You
to you later.
too. All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.